Hey, before we get into this episode, just a couple of messages from our sponsor, which is me. If you're a musician, an artist, a dancer, or someone in our gig economy, if you work in marketing, management, an agent, anything else, and you're like what we're talking about here and you'd like to come on and have a chat, please email me at aussielocallandlive@gmail.com and we'll organise to get you on. Secondly, if you're watching this, please subscribe now on the YouTube channel. Subscribe so we can let you know when more episodes come along, and please let your friends know about it. Finally, the last thing, if you do like what's going on and you'd like to really help, please put your camera on that QR code. It will take you to a tip jar on my website. All the money comes 100% to the show, and every bit helps. So anyway, enjoy this episode. If you can, email me, subscribe, or help out with a tip jar situation. Really appreciate it. Have a good day and enjoy the show. We're up and running. I'm welcome to the actual and very first Aussie Local and Live, and it's a fun little experiment. We'll see how it goes, but trying to make this place a bit of a spot where across our local music industry, across our gig economy, we can sort of meet and chat with people and see what's going on around the place. And for the very first one, I'm really, really privileged to have with me a guy called Benno Rogers. Hey, Benno, how are you, mate?
G'day, Nick. How you going, champion?
I'm good, mate. Now, I'll get you to tell your story in a sec, but I reckon we must have known each other now for about 20 years, I'd say. I think, did we first meet at the Gympie Muster?
Oh, no. Oh,
it was before then.
Actually, it might have been just before then. Maybe just before then at a local show, yeah, through the rugby boys.
And we had, and we were at the muster, the one that got flooded out, which is pretty and mate, since that time, we have very diverse music actions that we take. Like my background's really, the singer-songwriter, acoustic, country, basically style of artist. And mate, you're a heart and soul hard rocker, heavy metal guy.
Yeah, mate, from born and bred.
So how'd that come about? What got you interested in heavy metal?
I think I was about 89, 90. Well, I think the first, it was all at the same time, but Guns N' Roses and Metallica back in those days. Rage obviously used to be a very big part of the Australian music scene, not as much as it is these days, but you'd stumble home, put on the ABC and listen to it until the sun comes up. Well, I was more in '89, waking up as a 8-year-old and and listening to the top 50 that used to be top 50, and Metallica's One, the video clip for that. I remember seeing that and just listening to those drums and double kick drums, like got me straight away. And then my next door, I had an older neighbor across the road who was 5 years older than me. He introduced me into Guns N' Roses, and from that into Rage Against the Machine and Pantera, and then that little door got opened and the whole heavy metal world. So,
and what about your singing style? Because I think that my vocals, I've sort of got a traditional rock style of singing, where a lot of it's you really relax the throat, you get it up into the mask, and a lot of that gravelness comes from what you do up in your kind of sinus cavities. Really, you have that the throaty style of singing. Is it from your throat, or is that a technique as well that's different?
So I remember having a girlfriend when I was 17, 18, and she could sing, and her family was very musical, and I wasn't a very good singer because various reasons. Growing up with an out-of-tune piano doesn't help. But I ended up seeing her vocal teacher, and she taught me a lot of the techniques about opening out your larynx, learning to actually start the sound in your chest and then move it from your chest to your nose to your forehead. And I learned all that when I was 17, 18. Before then, when I went to university to study to be a music teacher, we were learning solfege. So we were singing in Latin, and we were singing in solfege, and we were having to sight read singing, and I was singing every day. So I had to learn how to sing properly. And you'll find that some of the really good metal singers, like the really good metal guitarists, are probably as good a musician on any of the other genres. It's just that there's something about metal music that scares a lot of people. So people just go, oh, well, I don't want to find out about it. But you'll find that the musicians that play metal, technically, like their theory generally is better than everybody else's. Their speed,
Absolutely.
their agility,
Yep.
their understanding of modes, which
Yep.
rock music doesn't use. And then, adding jazz and blues in there as well. Like you listen to some of the prog guys now. Like I take Dr. Sam from Caligula's Horse, a really good Brisbane band. Yep. They're phenomenal. Pliny from, I think he's out of Sydney. Like he's in NAMM every year over in the US, just giving guitar workshops. So Australia produces some of the world's best metal. Like take Parkway Drive as an example. They headlined Varken, which is the world's largest heavy metal festival that goes for 3 days. And this is a bunch of surfer dudes from Byron that just didn't want to grow up, essentially. Yeah. And they're celebrating 20 years now. 2 sold-out shows at the Brisbane Entertainment Centre for a metal band out of Byron.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of people, general public, don't realise that you go back to the roots of even people like Steve Morse or, the guys from Zeppelin and that from those early days. The grassroots was there of just high technical brilliance.
100%.
And it's just developed on and on from there. And as you say, the different modes and everything used in metal, people don't realise. And that's why I'm curious about that singing style, because it is, different from the way I sing it. And I think, what you're saying there in that brief thing is it's still about that technique of actually, even though you sounding like you're on your throat, you're getting it off your throat and you're getting it up into that mask. Is that right?
Well, and it's really about opening up your larynx. Like if you don't, like people will do it and then they won't be able to talk the next day. And it's because you're not putting the control in your larynx, and it's actually your larynx and your vocal cords. I know other metal vocalists have talked about the false vocal cords and all these sort of things, but you've got to look. It's an instrument, and you got to look after it, and you got to learn how to use it. And if you treat it right, it's amazing how much you can do with your voice. Like you go back to Gregorian chants all the way through to Mongolian throat singing through to all of that gets, you'll find it in metal somewhere. Like you've got some of the, like Ronnie James Dio, one of the best high power metal things, to all the way through to like Gojira were at the Olympics, and there's some very throaty, meaty vocal in that. Randy Blythe, Lamb of God. And then you got your James Hetfield with the big like it's there's as much diversity in vocal style in metal, and which is also what's really cool. A lot of people think it's all screaming, but once you actually get into it, there's so much more of it that's not screaming.
Yeah, exactly. So, mate, from a music teacher to being a heavy rock performer, what was the pathway there?
Well, I got into uni. I was actually studying to be a science and mathematics teacher, but it wasn't where my heart was at. And then transferred over to be a music teacher. I never actually finished it because formal education and me don't really mix very well.
Yeah.
So then I got a day job and then worked during the day for the state government, while at night trying to be a rocker, I guess. My early days was in a band called Dark Enchantment. We used to play around the Brisbane scene, but the other guys in that band, music wasn't their end goal in life. So one's now an orthopedic surgeon, another one's a deputy principal at a high school, another guy's a builder. Everyone went off on their own little things.
Yep.
And then I went from metal. That's when I ended up in acoustic music, actually. I went and made an acoustic rock grunge band called the Benno Band. That was sort of my thing for a while. That was sort of 05, 06 when I released music for that. Before, then life took me to Alice Springs and I became a tour guide, and I was gigging out there as well, which was interesting. Alice Springs is such an interesting place.
Yeah.
Before coming back, becoming a dad, I was married, and then it was interesting. The way I sort of got back into music was a band called Voyager from Perth. They're a prog metal band from Perth. Famously came 9th in the world at Eurovision. So well done to the Little Perth band. And yeah, I heard one of their songs one night coming home on Triple J's The Racket, which is the heavy metal, hard rock, hardcore Triple J's 3 hours of devotion of heavy music a week. Mm-hmm. And I listened to this stereo guitars going left and right. I was like, oh, wow, I'm missing this in my life. And then got back into music into a big way, quit my job, went back into being a front of house sound engineer, running festivals, working in production companies. It became my sole source of income again, which was scary, because then once it was my sole source of income, COVID happened. And it became my zero source of income, which we all know what happened in that. We don't need to rehash it. But so, yeah, I ended up at Twisted Pair Productions through COVID, which has been excellent. I started off there as the head of the installations department. So I was building the PAs and the sound systems and that in pubs and clubs, and still working with Rep Management, which is my company, promoting bands, running shows, managing certain artists. And then on Facebook Marketplace, because, every musician is always on Marketplace looking at all the instruments for sale going, what if? Yep. I bought this random bass guitar off this guy. His name was Steve Connolly. And he then friended me on Facebook and started messaging me. He's like, come down and listen to my band. I'm like, whatever, here's another guy that thinks his band's, good. And I went into the room and we sat down and we had a couple of beers. And he goes, here, take the microphone and just have a sing. And I went, oh, yeah, I'd had a couple of beers by then. I thought, yeah, I'll get up there. And he'd written lyrics to these songs. I was like, oh, yeah, cool. And I got home that night and I went, I really like that. I haven't done that in a long time. And then he called me up. He goes, I was talking to all the boys. We want you to be a singer. I'm like, what? Oh, right. I just thought that was fun. So then I went and thought about it. And I called him back and I said, mate, look, I've been out of being a performer now for over 10 years. I'm just I'm the guy wearing black at the back now. I'm not on the front of the stage. I said, but if I do this, we're going to do it 100%. You know what I mean? I'm not half doing it, because I turned 40 by then, and I'm like, if I do this and I come out and go back on the front of the stage and be in front of everyone, I want it to be 110%. And he was like, well, I'm ready for the journey. So, and that was how Awaken the Hate got off the ground. And I was like, cool, let's do this. So that was 2023. And
Mate, just as a bit of a fun thing too, people need to realise that you also brought in the male model thing into
the male model from Mudgee.
No, very, very cool. But mate, going back to your positions there, and look, so people know I'm going to try and have a regular chat with Benno. So over the time, we will get into more of his background, his past, and what he's done. But one thing I just want to point out to people. You, as you see there, you've got Rep Management, you've got the production company, you're a singer with the band, but you've been very active in helping a lot of people in the music industry and in our local music industry and supporting them. Even down, you mentioned COVID before, when we were all in that mess, one of the things I was doing occasionally just to try and get a few extra bucks in was I'd do a little busking down in the local park at Sandgate. And mate, you turn up and support me. And I really respected you for doing that, mate, because, it was just about supporting, being there for each other. And, mate, the reason I want to have you on and talk about the heavy metal side is I want to learn more. I want people to learn more about and it's a very healthy scene in Brisbane from what I believe. And, mate, I think you can introduce some of the artists to us and we can talk about what's going on in that industry. But I really appreciate your love of the industry, mate.
Oh, mate, 100%. And like, to be honest with you, that was your idea of just going down the park with a battery-powered PA, take a six-pack down, sit there. It was beautiful weather most of the time too, sitting there in that sun, in the grass, just listening to music. Ange, your wife got up, your boy got up. Oh, his throat was a bit crook, but just have another artist come up and perform and Yeah, it was fantastic, and it was needed. It got because we were all stuck at home. You know, we venues weren't open. We weren't allowed to do much. We had to social distance, all of that. Like it was 100%. I'll support anything that, particularly like that, that just helps music get out there, but people get out there. Like for me, music is community, right? And I think one of the things that we've lost in our world is that community. Everyone's stuck with a phone in their hand and their head in their phone, right? And they go, oh, but I'm connected to everybody. Yeah, you're connected to everybody, but connected to nobody at the exact same time, you know?
And your own little circle, your echo chamber of your
and the algorithm loves repeating what you already think. So like sitting down in the park and listening to acoustic music, listening to different genres, listening to conversations with people that you've not met before, and hearing their stories, you know, it's all about that. Like 8-Ball Aitken is another example. He's a blues roots guitarist. He's based here now, Glasshouse Mountains. He's been doing gigs out of his backyard. Sells them for a couple of tickets for, you know, $20-$30. He'll perform. His brother Dillian, who's just a phenomenal musician, he'll perform. They'll get another artist in, and just musicians, independent musicians, doing what they got to do to put bread on the table.
Well, 8-Ball's a real deal. Yeah, he's a real journeyman who's been doing it forever and backed himself all the way, and a great artist. You know, he's one of those great artists, and I have to try and get 8-Ball on sometime to have a chat about what he's done. So, mate, as far as the metal scene goes, and obviously, eventually, I'd like this chat to we cover things around the country, but for the moment, you know, it will be focused on Queensland because that's where that's my home, and that's where I know most people to start with. What's the metal scene like in Queensland? And you were telling me before we came on that you've done a few trips over to Perth recently, and just how different the scene is in Perth. So, what's things like here, and what's the comparison to what's going on over there?
Well, there's a lot of metal bands in Brisbane, and it's great. It's fantastic. We've got Necrosonic coming up at Mansfield Tavern in 2 or 3 weeks. Unfortunately, I'm going to miss it.
The Rock Arena is back, by the way, at Mansfield. The Rock Arena.
Yeah, it is unreal. And the Mansfield Tavern, that room's awesome. I played it last year at Hollowfest, which is a festival run by Scotty Hollow from the band We the Hollow. Phenomenal room. Good size room, good size PA, good size. Like, it's a rock stage. It's not a band playing on the floor with a stick PA and a couple of static park hands. You know what I mean? Like,
well, I did a little acoustic gig out there on the weekend.
After the renos,
just in the beer garden part. But I hadn't been out there since like the 80s and 90s when we used to play at the old Rock Arena. And I remember we supported Hoodoo Gurus there, the Sunny Boys pile of thing. And I forgot driving around the car park. There's these old motel rooms out the back, and they used to be band rooms when you play there. And all these memories came flooding back of the mad times we had back then. So, oh, mate, that'll be awesome to see the guys out there doing that.
Room. And Necrosonic, Kent has put that together. This is second or third year. It's getting recognition Australia-wide as a really solid festival. You know what I mean? There's a few few interstaters, and I think there might be 1 or 2 internationals on there, but it's predominantly local acts. Like
what date's that?
It's either the 22nd or the 29th of. No, it'd be I'd have to look it up. I can't remember.
All right. What's it called again?
Necrosonic.
Okay, look that up, folks, and check it out.
At Mansfield Tavern, that's a good one. Mick Brew from Brewhouse Productions is putting on another Brew Fest, also at Mansfield, which is good. Mansfield's been doing really well. The Back Room's another venue that loves to support metal. And then you've also got the Bright Side, of course, which is affiliated with Destroy All Lines. So that could be a conversation for another day. My opinions on that, but there's some solid venues now where the PAs are getting better, and it's what's really been fantastic to see is the Crowbar back in Brisbane. So the Crowbar started in Brisbane. It opened up Sydney, and then for various reasons it ended up closing down Brisbane and focusing on Sydney. But with the closing of the zoo, and we thought we were going to lose an iconic venue in the zoo. The Crowbar have come in, and Ian Redmond, the production manager of the Crowbar, has done a fantastic job. The D&B rig they've got in there. He's gone and done a few things like really, really well from a production point of view, right? Mm-hmm. And the way that room is put together and built makes it really, really easy for touring bands to come through there to bring in their consoles, bring in their gear. But it's also still a great local room for local bands to play as well. And it's that 400, 500 cap. It's that venue when you're not quite big enough to play at the Triffid, but you're bigger than playing, Rick's Backyard or the Brightside. So it's
like, is there enough work around for the metal acts to make a living in Brisbane or in Queensland?
No, not in Australia.
Okay.
There is not enough work for metal artists to make a living as a musician in this country. That's just black and white, and that's not going to change. The market's too small.
When you're saying you're in Perth, was it healthier over there, or was it just different?
Just different. Like when I was in Perth, so Awaken the Hate went over there. That was our first trip over there. We played a Thursday night, which was very, very difficult to do a Thursday night in Perth when you're an unknown metal band from, the Sunshine Coast, Brisbane, Australia. But on subsequent visits, I've been there twice since to go and support Voyager. And I also, I took my son over for one of those trips because Voyager did an all ages show. The Rosemount Hotel, that room is a phenomenal room. But while I was over there on the most recent trip, I was there by myself and I just spent the whole weekend by myself and just went around seeing music for the weekend. I saw Jeff Martin from the Tea Party as an example. That was a phenomenal show. The amount of local artists, just solo acoustic artists, a bit like what you do. Like every pub's got one. There was an all ages venue over there that I went and checked out, on a Saturday afternoon. Just started at 2:00 and it was an all ages and BYO. So no liquor license to worry about the kids having to worry about that stuff. If you wanted to have a beer, you can bring one in. But it was a massive stage and a massive room with a sound guy and a lighting guy. And it gave, the younger kids opportunity to go and see some bands and also some younger musicians to actually experience what a real stage is like with real production. And
so it sounds quite a bit like what we had here in the 90s and 80s.
Yeah, very much so. Well, like I always, when people, Osher Ginsberg, Andrew G., those that know him from the old V days and Triple M, and then Osher Ginsberg now, before he was on Married or whatever, The Bachelor and all of that sort of stuff, like he made his living as a roadie for a covers band. Yep. Now, you can't do that anymore. Like there's not enough work even for touring cover artists to make that their sole source of income. One of the bands that I work for, Black Star, they're a good solid originals band, but they've been running this thing called Smells Like the 90s. And it's just like all the great rock and grunge and pop songs from the 90s, But even that, in Brisbane, there's 4 or 5 90s tribute bands. So you're all competing against each other and you can't all play Thursday, Friday, Saturday night, et cetera, et cetera.
Mate, am I right in saying that probably the big change for us that happened and why it's probably kept that way in Perth is we had the pokies come in here everywhere?
We did, and they don't have pokies in pubs. And
so back in the 80s and 90s, with people who weren't there, it was a matter that the venues here really worked with the artists because that was what they depended on to draw people to the rooms. When the pokies came in a lot of those chain hotels, the focus went to pokies and restaurants, and the musicians then became sort of more, you stick them in a corner under 3 TVs and, just make some noise or something. I get the feeling for what you were telling me, Perth is still set up where it's about artists drawing people to the venues.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, they're the entertainment. They're very AFL crazy, don't get me wrong. It was AFL season when I was over there. But there's musos and there's sport. There's no pokies. You want to go to the pokies, you go to the casino. I also, the other thing that I've learned recently over the past few years with touring around and traveling around with, I work a lot in sport broadcasting as well as with musicians. And I tour the country quite extensively every year. What the other thing that Queensland actually has going against it, and a lot of people don't realise this, is the way our liquor licensing laws are set up is that you need to have a hotel license to be able to have an off-site license, so a bottle. So with a hotel license, you get three off-site licenses, so 3 bottle-os. You don't need that as strictly in the other states, which means ALH, which Woolworths has a percentage of, and AVC, AusVenueCo, which Coles has a percentage of, these guys have gone in and bought all of these pubs. They bought all of the pubs so that they can buy the bottle-os, so that you can have your Dan Murphy's, your Liquorland, your First Choice, and your BWS, right?
Yep.
As such, the main driver for the money in these venues is getting the poker machine license and getting a bottle shop. It's not about music. Yep. They want to have cheap meals that are good, that get people in there so that they can have a bet. It's not about... Like, I remember the last time I saw you perform live was actually at the Morayfield Tavern, and they shoved you in the walkway where everyone's got to walk. And I brought my kids down there, and I was trying to explain to them, I said, this is disgusting. Like, I remember seeing you back in the early 2000s and, you know, Mary Street nightclub, and, you know, when Shane Nicholson and yourself, and there was Tuffy, and like, the Normanby Hotel, the Five Ways, you know, you had the Albion Hotel, which was another great one. The old Prince of War at None. Like, people were going out to have a great evening listening to music. Yep. The good thing about the metal world that I found to pull this back to metal, there's that DIY, we're still going to do this. Like, there is that punk rebellion that metal has.
Well, and that's sorry to interrupt you, but just while you're on that point, that's what I'm hoping with these chats we can have with everyone else. We can kind of push that spirit amongst all of us, because we can bitch and complain about what's happened with the pokies and what the venues are doing and everything else. But end of the day, it's up to us to take control of our industry and really put on better shows, come up with better ideas, make things that people want to come out and see, and connect with the public and rebuild our industry. And that's what I think what you guys are doing in the metal world. There's so many things the rest of the industry can learn from.
Yeah, and it's great to see that there's Amy Hosman, Nowhere Productions. They've been doing a phenomenal job in just the DIY and getting underground metal bands opportunities. I mentioned Mick Brew earlier from Brewhouse Productions. He's the same. Like, he introduced me to Soapbox Brewery in the Valley, which has this empty room upstairs with a stage on it. And he said to me, he's like, can we put a brew fest on here? And I'm like, blood oath we can. Let's do it. Like, it was one of the worst loadings I've ever had to do, up 2 sets of stairs. But, you know, that was gigging, like, back in the day, you know, like you had to carry all your crap upstairs. It was like, it can be done. Like, there's lots of little spaces. Hire the space yourself. Do it. Sell your tickets. Because the other thing that's frustrating me, and metalheads seem to be better at it than what particularly the indie community is, and this is not to denigrate the indie community, but I'm sure you've heard about this fair pay for musicians thing, right? And there's the musicians union. I've been contacted many times over the years by various lobbyists in that group to try and get rep management and me involved. And as I've said to them from the get-go, I said, if you put in a minimum $250 of payment to a musician, you will kill the industry, because pubs will stop doing it. Because I need people to understand there is a difference between employment as a musician and art as a musician. Now, I look at what you do with your covers. Peter Muldoon, great producer, very close friend of mine, great cover artist. Black Star with what they're doing with the 90s show. It is employment. You are contracted by the venue to play a certain genre for a certain amount of time to a certain group of people.
Which has enabled me to have my 7 albums of my original stuff. That's
exactly. Yeah, that's right. But that you get paid for, right? I pick up a guitar and have written a song and I want to go and perform it, doesn't mean that I should get paid. I need to sell tickets to get paid, because that is art, right? And I think that's getting lost. There's all this ownership of we've got to put it on the venues to pay us. No, you've got to have something
There's
to
no
sell.
incentive to make them. And one of my things is they keep comparing it to, like, say, the theatre industry. But the theatre industry has actually got a union. They're unionised. They've got power.
Yeah.
We saw through COVID that we, because our industry has no one supporting it, no centralised, and it's like trying to get the industry together. It's like putting your hand in a barrel of water and trying to bring all the fish together. It's just everyone's doing their own thing. It's very independent. It's hard to bring people together. But that's the things that we do have to start focusing on, mate. You're dead right that these ideas that if you've got a 4-piece band and you have going to go to a venue and say, well, you have to pay us $1,000 for us to play, well, they're just not going to book you. Full stop. So we've got to be
half an
practical.
hour. You're not even doing 4 hours. You're not even doing a 4-hour set. You're doing, we've got half an hour songs. Yeah.
Okay.
It's not practical.
It's got to be more about how do we come up with things that people want to come out and see? How do we sell tickets to those things? How do we make ourselves valuable to the venues? And we were valuable back in the 80s and 90s because that was what drew people in. Now, sure, conditions changed and we can't change the world there. I mean, I'd like to talk a lot more as we go through these things about what the pokies do to society and how the government relies on them for tax money. And I just think the whole thing's terrible. But that's another discussion. We can bitch as much as we want, but we have to find solutions. And solutions are, how do we get people back in the venues? How do we actually make ourselves viable commercially? And that's the way, I lived in LA for 3 years, and those places like that, you only make your money if you're drawing people to rooms. The rest of the time you're showcasing. And that's the realities of our industry.
It's interesting that you mention LA. I'm currently reading Duff McKagan from Guns N' Roses book. And he discusses the early days of Guns N' Roses in LA.
They were on the Strip,
and they were playing in front of 4 people. And they were like, this isn't going to work. We need to get more bums on seats so we can get paid. And they went from being Guns N' Roses, 5 dudes playing in front of 4 people, playing first on a bill of 5, went to selling out Wembley Stadium. So, because of the work ethic, what happened after that's irrelevant with their story. But it's the mentality and the work ethic, you know what I mean? If you want to, again, like I'll use Parkway Drive as an example. They are a self-made independent band from Byron Bay, 5 dudes that just worked hard, and they did the things that other people weren't prepared to do. They slept in surfboard cases in the bottom of rusted out ships somewhere in Europe to get to the next show. Like, that's what they did. And there's this, unfortunately, the generation coming through now are built very differently, and the work ethic is differently. And unfortunately, there's this I want it now mentality and attitude, because they've seen it. Like, they see it with YouTube and they see it with Instagram and TikTok, and all of a sudden these overnight success people that have something that goes viral, and then they become famous, and they're like, oh, it's that easy. I just need to make that one bit of content that goes viral. It's like, you need to be able to maintain it. And if you haven't honed your craft by playing a crap ton of shit shows in front of nobody, like, you learn more in a bad show than you do a good show. I'm sure you know that.
Mate, one performance is worth 10 rehearsals too, I reckon. It's like you mentally change. You've got to entertain people. Mate, as I say, going to have you on regularly, so we won't go much longer with this one, but I really appreciate the things you're saying. And I think what we want to do while we will be looking at the issues our industry has, we want to look at the positives and how we move it forward. And that's what I'll be doing a lot through my conversations with different people. Mate, you've got some gigs coming up. I'm just going to grab a little graphic here. You want to tell people about these ones?
Yeah, so Rick's Bar, I'm actually excited about, because that's our first Queensland show for the year. So we've played, around the rest of the country, but we haven't played at home. So, and that's a free entry one. And Rick's Bar, Fortitude Valley, everyone would know. Anyone that knows Brisbane knows Rick's. RG's, great venue. They've now got Chattahoochee Joe's across the road, which is a honky tonk. They have live music 7 days a week, and they've got 3 different spaces for live music. Like, how great is that?
Yeah.
Then we're up at Norton's, up at Caloundra. Now, Liam Norton, that owns the Norton's Music Factory, another dude that worth having a chat to if you can get to. He's phenomenal what he's been doing with the music scene. Great supporter of music. We're going up there to support the Pantera tribute band. November, we've got Heavy Fest in Sydney and then Heavy Fest in the Valley. And actually, in between all of those, where they've just been released this week, after I'd sent those dates to you, we're on tour with Boulevard of Eyes from LA. They're
cool.
Chloe Trujillo, who's Robert Trujillo of Metallica fame's wife.
Right.
It's her band. So as soon as Metallica leave the country and then go to New Zealand, she's coming back to the country to do her own tour after Metallica. So we're hoping Rob's going to come on tour with us as well. That'd be really, really nice. But yeah, so there's a few shows. Tickets, if you head to Awaken the Hate or Rep Management or X Music, you'll be able to get tickets. They're available mostly through Moshtix, but there's a couple of Oztix and Eventbrite in there as well. But yeah, it's been a pleasure, Nick. I'm really, really stoked with this idea and what you're doing. And I think it's a really good opportunity for particularly young up and coming artists to speak and hear particularly from Southeast Queensland and Brisbane, some of the things that we've gone through over the last, like I've been in the game for 35 years.
Yeah, 40.
There's a wealth of knowledge, some really, really good people, that a lot of opportunity to learn some things. So I'm hoping people get something out of it. And
yeah. Just a question on your gigs for people who haven't been to much heavy metal stuff. Like obviously, it's loud, aggressive. People can look pretty scary sometimes. What's the crowds generally like?
Fun, loving, supportive. It's interesting. Most people see a bunch of hairy, long-haired, tattooed people wearing black over, and everyone's like, "Oh, you okay? You okay? Can I help you up? Can I get you a drink? Are you all right?" I've been, as you know, with all of the different genres of music that I've worked in, I've not seen us and as friendly to each other as a metal crowd. I've been to bush stuffs, EDMs, country, all of the genres, from massive 30,000 festivals to, I've seen it all. I've worked them, I've played them, and I just think the metal crowd is the most loving, like the old country crowd, like 10, 15 years ago, not this American country pop. Like I was at CMC recently.
One big family. Yeah, it's like one big family.
Yeah, it is. Everyone knows each other, and like you walking along, and what metalheads are, there's all that joke, you name 3 songs if you see someone wearing a metal shirt, right? You see that band, you're like, but that band, you're like, oh, you like that band, I like that band too, we can be friends. Yeah. It's very much.
I don't think there's much more of
that band shirt.
I don't think there's much more of a bigger passionate music crowd than the metal crowd. They're passionate about the music, and I think that's a great thing. So I just wanted to raise that because I know a lot of people who haven't been there and they just see that from the external. So it can be scary to think about going into a metal show, but give it a go, and you really will enjoy your night. Yeah.
And if you want to come to Rick's, it's free entry. It's an early night, so it's only 7 till the DJ's on after that. Come and experience. Engraved, who we're playing with, a really heavy, hardcore band, but some of the nicest, friendliest guys that make you feel really warm inside. It's great. It's music, like community, and it's about building community.
Yeah. Well, mate, we're going to have a lot more chats go moving forward. And can I ask people who you do watch this, please subscribe to this channel. And that way we need to just slowly build it and let other people know, let your friends know about it. And I'll be trying to put up a couple of episodes a week and keep it pretty regular. But, mate, Benno, great to chat to you, mate. Look forward to doing a lot more, and all the best with the shows you've got coming up and all the plans you're doing.
Thanks, Nick. And I'm really, really proud of what you're doing here, mate.
Yeah, cheers, buddy. Thanks.